Hello, Command229 here for the Topic of the Week video, and this week I'll be talking about some painful anime cliches. This week's topic was submitted by Tumblr user grimaulkins, and her topic is: can you discuss some anime cliches which you think should be put to rest, and others that you wish writers would bring back more? I'm gonna be perfectly honest and say that I can't really think of cliches that I like that I want brought back. A lot of them are still done now. Whether they're done well is debatable, and honestly, that's on a case-by-case basis. But I can't think of any cliche that that I really like and hasn't been around. And to be perfectly honest, for a lot of cases, cliches aren't inherently bad in and of themselves. It's more of how they're written. Because you can have some anime do some, or just anything, not just anime, but you can have a cliche in something that's just done to death, but with good writing, it's not stupid, it's not bothersome, and it doesn't grate on me. I mean, I've seen like anime or whatever that have things like a beach episode, or a spa episode, or a hot springs episode. That's what I'm trying to get. Or like a school festival episode, or episodes. Like, I've seen these cliches done a million times, but sometimes they're annoying. Sometimes they're there just because they're cliches that everyone else does. But sometimes it actually does do something, and it's still entertaining with good writing. So, I mean, there are cliches that I could point out that say I do like, things such as the hero who starts at the bottom, but through hard work and determination and through their own guts, they end up working hard to become more powerful. Well, you have characters like Deku from My Hero Academia fulfilling those archetypes and stuff. So I can't really say, like, I can't, like, I really tried to think about this before I made the video, but I really can't think of any old cliches that just haven't been done in a while that I really want brought back. I mean, maybe if I look back at a whole bunch of tropes from 80s and 90s anime, I might find something. But just thinking about it, I really can't think of much in the way of ones that I would like to be brought back. So I won't be talking about that much here. I will focus on some cliches that I have seen, just a few, that I really don't like. And some of them are just... So yeah, I'll only focus on a few of them because I could go into a bunch of them and that'll take a while. But a lot of these cliches just really grate on me. One that really, really pisses me off, maybe it doesn't piss me off so much as it just makes me go, is when you have these protagonists in anime, and they're these generic brown-haired or black-haired guys. Sometimes they wear glasses, sometimes they don't, but they all basically have the same personality, to the point where I can barely even remember their names 5 minutes after I've done watching the show, because, well, you could switch them with this other guy and nothing would change. A lot of them have the same personality. You'll see things like, oh, well, they're generally nice guys who are just your average everyday guys. Sometimes they're a little on the nerdy side, and I know that these types of characters are generally meant to be more blank slates that you can sort of self-insert into, so you can pair them up with your waifu and everything. Never been into that. Never quite liked that, but I want these to be actual characters. I'm not looking for characters who are generic guys who are just generic. They don't have much personality. And if you can switch your protagonist with, protagonist 837 of this anime, and it's basically the same thing, you've done something wrong. Like, I see a lot of these protagonists, and they're generally nice guys. They're a little perverted, not enough to make them unlikable, but they're just perverted enough to get into trouble. And of course, they'll be branded. This will all lead to some cliche misunderstanding about how they just happen to be looking at, this girl who's a love interest, either a love interest in a harem or the love interest of the show, in various states of undress or in the shower or something, or maybe they just happen to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time and are branded some sort of horrible pervert. But they're not perverted enough to really deserve that, but they're just enough to get themselves in trouble. And they're just nice enough that oftentimes they'll have girls like falling for them, and you can make this work. In Clannad, in Tomoyo, is nice to all these girls, and but he's not just a super generic character. You actually can't understand why a lot of these girls like him. And also, it does help that the characters are actually mature about things in that anime, and it's not just constant squabbling amongst the harems. Just, I generally don't like actual harem series because, oh my gosh, they grate on me. You have these generic protagonists, and there's really no reason why all these women fall for him. And shoot, you can in some cases, but not as much in anime, but I do see this time in some, especially like in Western medias and shows, where you'll have like a female character who has all these guys falling for her, and over, and it basically almost gets on your nerves. It'd just be like, okay, settle down with a guy. You can't, it's like they show them, but for mostly in anime, you'll have a lot of these generic guys, all these women fall for him. And this will oftentimes lead to a harem. Ugh. You can basically have harems in like fandoms, where you'll always have, everyone's going to ship the main character with someone different. Like you'll end up with that in like Persona games. Alright, like where you can romance basically all the girls in this as the main character. But if you're going to be doing something like that, actually make them characters. And this is something that I did get annoyed with. And I'll point to an anime that I watched a number of years ago, Rosario plus Vampire. It was... I can't say I hated it. It was just, after the end, like I watched the end, I was just like, oh, well, that's generic. Or just... And a lot of it was forgettable. But you have this main guy, and you have this build-up with the main girl. I forgot what her name was. Was it Rosario? Yeah, there's a lot about that I just forgot right after I watched it. But it's like you have this relationship built up, and okay, that makes sense. I understand why they have this relationship built up, and there are a couple other girls who like him. Alright, you have the ice girl who liked him because he really helped her out. Reasonable. The succubus girl who had a lot of pressure to get with someone. Okay. Then you had more characters who like them for no reason other than we need to fulfill harem tropes. Why? I mean, personally, I like it when a story actually focuses on a relationship and develops it. I don't like the will they or won't they pushed all the way to the end. And it's even worse because sometimes you see in a harem series where, they obviously do build up a relationship that should be the primary one, but the guy just can't choose because he's too nice to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm like, and this doesn't make me feel sorry for them. In fact, this makes me feel significantly unsympathetic towards them. They're like, you're just this normal guy who has half dozen plus beautiful women falling over themselves to be with you, and this is supposed to make me feel sorry for you. Yeah, not a cliche to really work. And this is one of the reasons why I like Clannad, because they actually Tomoya does get with Nagisa, the actual girl that he had the primary relationship with, regardless of who people ship Tomoya with. Nagisa is obviously the one that makes the most sense. Sure, some people want him to get with Tomoyo, or someone else. I don't remember all the names, but you have the sisters, like especially like the tsundere one. All right, you want him to get with one of these other girls, but it's obvious that his main relationship was developed with Nagisa. And instead of fiddle farting around with all these girls, he picked Nagisa. He got together with her, and their relationship developed. this shouldn't be so shocking, but it's such a cliche to have these harems just go on and on. And sometimes they don't want to disappoint people who may ship something specific. And I'm sorry, but you can't keep this stuff going. And those cliches just annoy me. Like, when I see an anime and it starts to, and I realize it's actually a harem, because sometimes a series may start off promising, but then you realize it's a harem series, and sometimes I just turn it off. I'm like, not today. Not going to deal with that. And, you know, and like I said before, sometimes these cliches and tropes can work. Like, I don't mind if there's a lot of women who are falling over themselves to get with the main protagonist, if it makes sense. And they're all good characters. But what annoys me is you have no reason at all, to believe that these girls would fall for this guy, except for the fact to create a harem. Okay, so enough about that one. There are a number of other smaller cliches. One of the cliches that I hate are these ones where the protagonist trips and just miraculously falls headfirst into cleavage, particularly if it's the love interest, or if it's the fan service girl, and sometimes they might be the same character. But it's just like, that is one of the most overused, stupid cliches. It's like, it's not really funny. From a fan service perspective, it's not like, I mean, even if you want fan service, like, it's not really even worth it. And it's so, it's reached a point where this trope is such an utter overused cliche, most people just go, ugh, when they see it. I mean, the odds of it ever actually happening are astronomical. And doing something like that is almost like branding yourself as just being cliche. It's like saying, well, we don't really know what to do, so let's just throw in a cliche. Another cliche, and this, I know some of this may be, it's a lot of romance stuff, but there's a lot of contrived romance drama that happens with cliches. But one cliche I hate is the really pointless misunderstanding. You have two people who obviously been developed to get together, but then there's a misunderstanding that gets in the way of it happening. Either it never happens, or it takes a lot longer. And sometimes this can happen in good series. And with good writing, a misunderstanding isn't bad. Freaking Space Dandy actually did this, which I do kind of find a little bit annoying, because it does kind of do away with a lot of the build-up that was developed upon. But it's not as bad when the series is good. Space Dandy, I freaking love Space Dandy. Space Dandy was really fun. So it's not like I hate it for doing that, but it's like these kinds of things happen all the time, and it's unbearable. You know, but I also will pull some cliches that anime do that aren't romance related, because I think I've talked a little bit too much about that. Now, there are some cliches that involve killing off characters, and people should know by now that I don't like characters getting killed off for no reason or just pointless deaths. There are cliches such as the mentor dies to help save the main character, and in older media I can accept this just because it wasn't as cliche decades ago, but at this point it almost feels like, oh hey look, a mentor character, well let's see, I think you're gonna die in about 3 minutes. Like, you shouldn't. If cliches reach the point where everyone expects that to happen, it might be a good idea to think about if you really want to put that in. Some cliches are just going to happen, and I don't mind it, but it's just this overuse of those kinds of cliches that annoy the piss out of me. Or something that shouldn't even be a cliche in the first place is the shock death. And this is something that isn't just in anime, it's something that happens in a lot in media, and just the hey look, we killed off a character for literally no reason. Freaking Attack on Titan is littered with this. This is one of the reasons why I quit Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is a garbage series. Some cool characters and some neat concepts, but Hajime Isayama is an absolutely worthless writer, who frankly hasn't written anything good past the Trust arc, which is the actual first arc of the series. It's only gotten worse as time has gone on. And honestly, most of the characters that people really care about are dead by now, so really, what's even the point? It's not even a worthwhile series to even stick around with anyway. But you have these characters getting killed off for pointless reasons. And Gurren Lagann, I talked about this in my video on Gurren Lagann, but it's like characters like Kamina's death, completely pointless. And sure, I could talk for a while about how you could do that, the series, without killing him off. You don't even have to change much. Because guess what? Sometimes just killing off a character to cause growth for another character, like if that's literally the only reason why a character is dying, so that you can give some artificial development to another character, oftentimes, this is the worst part, is when it only lasts for like an episode or two, and then, alright, they're fine after that, and they may mention it, but it doesn't really affect them. Oh yay, thanks Gurren Lagann, I'm glad to see that you killed off the best character in the entire show, just to watch Simone angst for a little bit before beach episode? I can't stand so much of Gurren Lagann. But yeah, those kinds of cliches just annoy me. Like death cliches, most of them are just stupid. And I have more to talk about that are more focused on Western stuff. But this is talking about anime cliches mostly, so those are stuff that I've seen in anime. And shoot, there's also another death stuff that, like, they really try to create this, like, deep emotional death. I've seen this several times, but then it doesn't work because you're just sitting there like, why did you kill this character off? Which is a little different from this shock, pointless death, because they try to actually set it up as this deep emotional impact. I'm trying to remember. There's this one specific anime that I remember seeing. I watched this anime like, was it like 7-8 years ago? It was a while ago. I don't remember what it was called. But, it's like they killed off this one character who was set up as a sort of one of the more significant characters, and he died. And it's like, at first I didn't even think he actually died, or that he was dying, and then you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm dying, and everyone was just like, chill with it? Why do I say that several times, where people die and everyone's just sort of chill with it? I wish I could remember the name of all those anime. A lot of these things are anime that I've watched years ago, and I generally try to avoid series that are similar to those, or in terms of those types of stories that do that. But shoot, it's just like, these types of these tropes just annoy me. Like, this is something to talk about in general. Death is not something you just do. Alright, you don't do it for shock value. You don't do it just to make a character angst for a couple episodes. Death should be meaningful. Like in Full Metal Alchemist. And I keep pointing to Full Metal Alchemist all the time for how to do something better. Because it's well written. And shoot, that even fulfills a number of cliches in and of itself. But of course, because Full Metal Alchemist is well written, that's not a problem. So yeah, there are a lot of cliches, like the falling face first into boobs cliche. Those stuff, just cut it out. Like, I am sick and tired of seeing that stuff. It's not even because, oh no, I don't want any fan service. If people really want their fan service-y anime, they can have that. But that when that pops up in something, anime just to do it, it's not funny, guys. It's an overdone joke. And trust me, when you have someone it's like when you have someone constantly trying to repeat a joke over and over, and it's like, first time you laugh, oh, that was pretty funny. The second time, oh, that's still a funny joke. The third time is fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time, you're just sitting there like, just stop. Stop repeating the same joke. And that's kind of what that trope feels like. Those kinds of things, those things should just be thrown out. Other things like harem or not shock deaths, but just deaths in general, you know, if you're going to fulfill some of these cliches, especially like the mentor dying, you know, you don't need to do that just because a bunch of other authors have done it. In some cases, it might be good to not do it, but sometimes you just don't do it. But really, if it's mostly important of how well it's written. And you should try, if you're incorporating cliches, and this goes for just general cliches and everything. There's the tropes are not bad. It really is sort of the definition of this, where it doesn't matter if something is overdone, because the phrase "there's nothing new under the sun" is pretty accurate. There's any idea you come up with, someone at some point in history has probably already done it, or something very similar. But it doesn't matter if that's the case, as long as you're doing something, as long as there's good writing to it, and a lot of times if you're putting a decent spin on it, giving some sort of unique aspect to it, or something that makes it stick out from the crowd of all the other versions of that cliche, you know, you'll generally be pretty good. But really, and of course, like a lot of this, it all boils down to the writing, which is definitely a skill that is difficult to master, and it's something that, shoot, I've spent years researching into. So yeah, I think that's about it for this topic. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask and put topic : and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So if there's any anime cliche that you're sick of, or even some old ones that you haven't seen in a while that you want brought back, please comment below. And thank you for watching.